You talk about languages. I'm coming back to this briefly. Do you speak any other language than English?
I speak Spanish, Mandarin, and a little bit of Hindi, Urdu, Arabic, Bengali, Russian, Korean. Because when I travel, I try to learn phrases to get by, out of respect.
How many countries have you been to?
Are you talking about UN recognized? Are you talking about sovereign territories?
Let's say UN recognized.
189 on 190, yeah.
Okay.
So I have three. I know I have 3 UN recognized countries left.
So what's next now after you've done all those countries? Was it like a goal that you set for yourself, or
no goals? If you set a goal for yourself, you're going to inevitably disappoint yourself. Just do it because you want to.
Participating in the campaign and posing as candidate for the Manhattan Borough President, you're already unique in itself, beyond all the explanation that you just gave me.
Everything I've ever would want to say, I've already said it for the past 38 years of my life. I've been out there in many different ways, wearing many different hats without asking for it, just wanting to live my best life, helping other people. I want to do right by the very same city, New York City, that took care of me when my dad died when I was 19 and my mom got Parkinson's and left me in the emergency room to be with her parents in Elmhurst. And I wandered the city alone for about 5 to 6 years by myself trying to figure things out. And the only people that took care of me were my friends in college and New York City.
Welcome to the Hot Seat, where Bold Heart speaks and we have real conversation. Today, I'm in New York and I'm sitting with somebody whose life walks around different worlds. Sometimes he's in the hallways of hospitals, sometimes he's crossing borders. So welcome, Calvin, today. Thank you for joining us.
Good to be here.
Awesome, fantastic. So I will start with, do you remember how we met?
Joe the Juice. Right by 63rd Street, Lexington Avenue, right after I did a swim. My friend Dave Zoe had met you on his travel somewhere in Southeast Asia or somewhere around the world, when Dave is somebody that had been on one of my trips, told me to meet you because he knew you were in New York City, and we made time. We only spent about 30 minutes talking before you had to run to catch a bus, and I predicted that you would miss it and that we would one day travel together. And then 9 hours later, my prediction came true. You came back, slept over, and went with me on my next trip to Budapest and Bratislava in Slovakia. We met a few more of my friends, and then ran into you in Mauritius in September 2019, a few years after that. One of the few weekends that you would be there in your homeland.
Yeah, this was great. And how do you think our friendship evolved? How did we stay in touch?
Organically.
Yeah, right.
Serendipitously. Keseena, I knew it was one of the few times where I wanted to throw out a prediction without any fear of consequences. And it wasn't like a wish. It was just a knowledge it was going to happen. They call it bridge of incidents or manifesting. Yeah. And literally within 9-10 hours, you missed that bus. And we went on a trip together within a week. I didn't know it was going to happen that quickly.
Yeah, that was very quick indeed.
And I knew that we would meet again in Mauritius. And when I led a trip to Mauritius 3 years after our trip in Central Europe, then you said that you were usually never there because most of the time you were spending in South Africa.
Yeah,
but one of the few weekends you showed up.
Yeah, it was like a fantastic experience. And obviously, we connect with travels, you travel a lot. And I also travel, so I'm seeing your journeys all the time on social media as well. And when I was preparing for this podcast, you were one of the person I really wanted to have on my podcast, And it was even before I was planning to come back to New York again. So I'm so happy that you are able to make it today. So my first question would be what's your thoughts on traveling? What has it bring you over the years?
It's a way of life, and it's a discipline in which you give yourself the agency of accessing an education that most of the world talk about but never actually practice. There are 3 types of educations in the world. One we get from our parents. This is a quote. I didn't make this up. One we get from our parents or guardians. One we get from our school, the education system. school teachers. And the third one we get from the world. And more often than not, the third contradicts the first two. And that's a quote. And we've knew about it. We've heard about that mindset. We've seen other people travel, but very few people actually practice it. People desire it. People want it. But unless you actually practice it, and it's not doing it, you got to practice. It's going to be very hard. Just like medicine is a practice. Music is a practice. It's going to be hard to motivate yourself to commit to a discipline. But when you get on a rhythm that involves travel, regular, frequent travel, in the way that you take your education seriously or listening to your parents when you're growing up as consistently, that consistency of exposure to things, experiences, people beyond your borders only changes your mind that in a way I can only describe as neuroplasticity. And after making discipline to have traveled once a month, every month for the past 15 years
Wow.
on a student budget with $300,000 in student loan debt, with no money, budgeting and scraping by, and even going to my old college and pretending to be a student to save on money so I can stock up on food and the free food and the events that had free food, and loaded up my Tupperwares everywhere I went. I would find creative ways to save money just so I could travel. Made me realize that traveling is not an interruption of my studies or my life, but an investment. And I'm grateful that I ended up with that experience because I was able to invest in my education as a culturally competent, eventually emergency physician and small business owner, and now a candidate for higher office. And all of it which informs the way I see the world. My brain has fundamentally changed where every month I'm in a different place. And I didn't expect that to happen, but you just see the world differently. The best example I can think of all the time is Arrival, the movie, where when she learns a new language, her ability to see the world changes so much, she's able to jump back in time. And I guess that's a spoiler alert for those who haven't seen that movie. But language, when you learn a language, you learn how people in different cultures see things differently through that language in a way that your brain also changes in the way you see the world because you become bilingual, trilingual, multilingual. And the same thing can be spoken of with the language of travel, constantly being in a different place. I don't do recreational drugs, but for those of my friends and my patients who have done it, I realize that's why they call it trips. They're tripping. They are going on trips because their brain chemistry is being altered from a substance. This is probably the healthiest way to have trips, to have this access to the same kind of neuroplasticity without having to put a foreign chemical in your body.
Healthier and costly.
It is costly, but there are creative ways you can keep it to a budget. And remember, I started traveling when I was 23 years old. My father had just died 4 years prior. I had no job. I was $200,000 in student loan debt. And this is before I signed up for medical school, which is even more debt. And I had to figure it out. But when there's a will, there's a way.
That's fantastic. You were talking about languages, and they say every language you speak, when you speak that particular language, you are a different person. Did you notice that about people that you know that speak multiple languages?
I wouldn't say I became a different person. I just discovered a different side to myself I never knew I had. It's all within. And when we travel, we access a part of ourselves that we didn't know ever existed. And I always tell people that travel doesn't make you a better person. It just accelerates you to being more the person you really are.
And even your brain, your mind, your perspective, and how you see things.
When you put yourself in foreign experiences, circumstances, that reflection back onto, it's like Ubuntu, a person is a person through another person. That reflection back onto allows you to see a different side of yourself that you never knew you had until you were in that different circumstance. We don't know who we are until we're in different environments that inform us who we really are. So once you get out of that bubble and to put yourself somewhere else, you're still that same person, but you might act differently because of that environment. But that difference didn't come from the environment. The environment just unlocked and accessed that thing that was still a seedling inside you that then blossomed given the right circumstances. So if you're deep down a kind person and you travel more often, you realize that the opportunities of kindness will manifest more often for you to acknowledge that. If you're deep down a freaking asshole and you travel a lot and in stressful situations and travel, activate a certain side of yourself that makes you a jerk, then you're going to have more frequent a frequent evidence that you're a jerk.
That's interesting. Like for me, traveling, I grew up in Mauritius, right? Most of my life was in Mauritius, and I had like quite a strong personality in Mauritius itself because of the environment I was in. And when I moved to Brazil, for example, I discovered another version of myself, like soft, never getting angry, super calm, very friendly with everybody, you know. So for me, like, it was a bit different because I didn't notice like I had that version of me inside of me until I traveled, you know. And that really opened the mind and really make us think deeply and want to travel more as well, right?
I think there's a caveat is just traveling may not be enough. You need to, it's not the what, it's how you do it. And I'm lucky that when I traveled, I wrote every day. And not just writing, I blogged and put it online so that I was able to revisit that. Because if you just travel without documenting or just taking photos but knowing that you'll never go through the media again, you're kind of traveling without any avenue of self-awareness access. And by blogging every day, I'm able to now go back in time. Literally time. This is the closest thing to time travel before we develop a machine for time travel, whatever physics may be. And the energy that I'm bringing now when I read the blog post from 10 years ago, from 9 years ago, from when we met up, brings me back to that person again. It makes me see who I was when I was blogging and writing in the moment. And that's another thing. It's not just writing after the trip is over. It's writing the day of.
Yes, that's something I've noticed. You know, we were in Budapest or Slovakia and all tired, you know, trying to catch a train, the bus and all of that. And then you wrote a full article about that moment and this travel. And I was wondering, when do you get the time to do this and the mindset, you know? I was quite impressed by that.
Long plane rides, if you can't sleep, I start pre-writing sometimes just to have an idea what could happen because I like to predict if it comes true. And then when it comes to the day of, half of it is already there because we know what we're going to see, provided that we make all the things. And then the other half, we fill in the blanks. So I'm already halfway there. And, you know, sometimes we're on the long bus ride, you were sleeping next to me and I was just, you know, writing in my head. And then I passed out after that because when you write, you start, you know, dozing off. It's good for your sleep to do a little bit of writing before bed. And I think it just feeds upon itself. But yeah, you make time. And obviously, after the trip is over, because I had a skeleton already posted, I was able to build on that. So there's sometimes after a trip, I add to it more memories that come up when I get more sleep.
Yeah, this was very impressive.
Thank you. It's a practice. It's a discipline.
Yeah. I mean, on this note, I would say, like, I see you as somebody who's very disciplined and has time to do so many things that you want to do. And I think that in itself, it's like something we're going to talk about during this podcast, obviously. You talk about languages. I'm coming back to this briefly. Do you speak any other language than English?
I speak Spanish, Mandarin, and a little bit of Hindi, Urdu, Arabic, Bengali, Russian, Korean. Because when I travel, I try to learn phrases to get by, out of respect, and also to make experiences easier on the ground. And just with the baseline of knowing Mandarin and Spanish, you're able to understand and from that foundation, pick up other languages a little more easily. And once you learn the phrases and you start seeing patterns, body language goes with the spoken language.
Okay.
It just becomes seamless.
It's a bit like, I'm learning Spanish since a year plus now. Me gusta mucho español.
Está bien. Yeah.
And I hope one day I can speak fluently.
Con practicar, then you will be able to do that.
Necesito practicar. Right?
Sí, usted necesita practicar.
All right, awesome. And how many countries have you been to?
Depends on what you count as a country. Do you count
officially
Antarctica as a country? Are you talking about UN recognized? Are you talking about sovereign territories?
Let's say UN recognized.
189. 190, yeah.
Okay.
So I have three. Wow. I know I have 3 UN recognized countries left.
Okay.
And I'm done.
Which are?
Dominica, Grenada, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Okay.
I'm taking my time now.
So what's next now after you've done all those countries? Was it like a goal that you set for yourself or
no goals? If you set a goal for yourself, you're going to inevitably disappoint yourself. Just do it because you want to. Focus on the present. I mean, you have an idea of a goal. Like when we first met, I knew you were going to miss your bus and you were going to sleep over, crash at my place, and then we'll travel together in a week or two. Now, I didn't know that it was going to be in a week or two, but I knew it was going to happen. Was that a goal? I don't know. I just said it. I just spoke it to the universe. I didn't hurt anyone by saying that. Maybe I planted the seed in you and you did miss your bus 9 hours later. I did not expect it to be that fast, but that wasn't a goal. It was just an added bonus. Now, if I made it a goal, like you better do this, you better do that, and you did that, you probably came back and it's like, what did you do? Did you call the bus company? Did you leave an hour earlier? Like there would be a little bit of resentment. You don't want it too much that even if it does happen, you feel this sense of like ickiness to it. You know, life is supposed to be a pleasant surprise. And a lot of us have some anxiety that we don't want to be in control of the time. I still feel a little bit of that. But I think the goal is to not have goals, to focus on the present and do what you want. And then I've just found out that if you travel consistently once a month, every month for 15 years, and then what happened was like Forrest Gump, other people start joining along and asking to come because you're blogging every day, you're putting it out there in public. People are going to inevitably follow and bring their friends and they start paying you to take them along, which is what happened to me. It turns into a community, into a business that keeps things motivated. And you don't see there's an end in sight and you don't want to, so that you keep in that spirit. Now, because of the laws of physics, you'll eventually visit almost every country in the world, because my desire is to always go somewhere new. But definitely, to your first part of the question, I'm going to still repeat things. I already have repeated countries. I'm going back to places. My trip next month after the elections is to go to northern Spain, another part of a country I've been to 7 times, 8 times already that I haven't been to yet, northern part, and I'm going to Moroccan Spain. So I've been to Morocco many, many times. But Ceuta, Melilla are 2 parts of Morocco that Spain owns, like Gibraltar, that is part of Spain, the UK owns.
Yeah,
so
I've been there last year.
Yeah, so Gibraltar is to Spain as Ceuta, Melilla is to Morocco. So I want to visit that part and bringing 10 people with me for that. And then for the 3rd year in a row, we're going to Tomorrowland right afterwards. So which you were supposed to go on, but next year.
Next year I'm coming.
But afterwards, I'm going to just keep doing it.
Yeah.
There's no goals in sight. And one day they'll probably say, I'm the first person to take strangers to every country in the world, or the first person to visit every country in the world twice, or I'm the first person to visit every country without a driver's license. Like, I don't even care being the first anything. It's just, I'm just happy to be here.
I think like you're already the first person who is like, traveling, being an ER doctor, being an author of the book, also now participating in the campaign and posing as candidate for the Manhattan Borough President, like you're already unique in itself.
You just show up, half the battle showing up. The irony is I never wanted to be a doctor. My dad did, but after he died, I decided not to become a doctor. I didn't expect to ever write a book, and I didn't expect to travel. Running for office, I was recruited. I was asked. And those are all honest, out there in public things. I have the Instagram post of somebody messaging me, hey, would you like to run for office? I have the friends who say I was there the day that you lost the bet to this person you met that led you to be finding yourself up in Egypt not shortly afterwards. That was your first trip, which people knew the attitude I had. I was like, I gave up on medical school after my dad died. And then I applied to everywhere just saying, if you read my essay, it wasn't like I want to be a doctor, because it was, this is what happened in my life, period. That's it. Yeah. And I let them decide what they want, whether they want me to be a doctor, and when med school took me. Yeah. So it's just doing your best without any expectation. Once you let go, if you just build what you want for yourself, they will come.
I agree with that as well. And I'm planning to buy your book on this trip, because I say when I come to the US, I'm going to buy it. I wanted to read it before our podcast, but that didn't materialize. But I am. And you will have to sign it someday.
I have to sign it, yeah. That was also crazy. It was 2 literary agents that emailed me around the same time. And I thought it was a scam. So I ignored it for a week or 2. And then I was like, you know what? Let me just reply. I don't usually reply to emails from people I don't know. And they were actually serious of turning that into a book, and I just gave them what they needed and wanted, and you always showed up. That's the thing, you have to have the discipline. If they ask you something, you deliver. It's not like I dragged my feet. So if they asked me, I did it. It's like they know better in the space. I don't know what it takes to publish a book. And within 2 years, my book was out on the world in the bookshelves, published by HarperCollins, like one of the big 4.
Exactly.
People spend their entire lives writing just so they get published by the big 4. Here I was, like, pinching myself, and I'm still in disbelief, and I'm not taking it for granted. And it's just, I have to remind myself though still that you just have to let it go. It's like the movie Office Space. Once you let go, like the whole world will come to you.
Yeah.
It's like an 8-year-old running around. You have your little 8-year-old trying to put the 8-year-old to sleep. Do you force her to go to sleep?
Oh,
You're spending twice as much energy.
yeah.
They're much more upset. They're less likely to go to sleep. They now hate you. Or do you actually let them run around until they tire themselves out as you're doing your dishes, finally get errands done, answering those emails as you're watching your, or play around until they get tired themselves out? Ends up in the same result. It's much easier. You spend less energy. You get more done in the same time. You're much happier. They're much happier. There are just different ways of doing things, and letting go is better.
Is a very good one because I've also experienced it last year. I was telling you, right? I had like kind of a burnout because I wanted everything in a specific order. And the moment I decided to just like flow with life, okay, I know what I have to do and progressively grow, like everything changed. Like, I'm in much more calmer space as well right now. So yeah, that's related to every day of our life. Like, sometimes we have to go like 100 kilometers per hour. Sometimes we just have to, flow with the river.
That goes back to what I say, why traveling is so important, because
Yeah.
you're in situations that are out of your control.
Yeah.
Because this is not your home. You don't know the public transportation. You don't know where the closest coffee shop. You've lost your routine because you're in a foreign country. You don't speak the language. Nobody knows you. You don't know anybody. Your service might not work. That's fine.
Yeah.
You're on vacation. It's a controlled type of healthy trauma, if you will, where your whole systems are appended so that you can finally start anew.
Find solutions as well, so you don't have that anxiety, anything that doesn't go your way.
Yeah.
So that you see a lot in this new generation as well.
It's another opportunity to practice gratitude.
Yeah, all the time. You told me like you wrote your book, and I also know that during COVID there is a whole era to talk about. I wanted to know, how did this book request come along? Is it a mixture of your travel and the whole process that went during COVID as well that influenced that, or what do you think?
The ask was to write everything that had happened during COVID, but they didn't want to be a purely COVID book because most people don't really want to relive the pandemic. They also made it primarily a book about resilience and recovery and an explanation on how somebody would navigate a pandemic for the first time through the eyes of a healthcare worker without any adequate protection, without any personal protective equipment, without a government that cared, with a whole society that felt like left them behind, and showing up to work still. What experiences that a health worker may have had to best prepare them for that adventure they didn't sign up for. And the frequent trips that I had done while in medical school, because I didn't start traveling until my first year of med school. So I was doing both at the same time. That practice and that frequent putting myself out there in uncomfortable situations and being comfortable with that informed the experience I needed unbeknownstly for a pandemic that we as a society were all underprepared for.
What is your takeaways from the COVID after all this process that you went through? And also, I do want to add on top of that, I'm not somebody who like to watch CNN or BBC and all of that. I know like I should in my career path that I have, but I don't really enjoy it, especially during that period, because it was very difficult to see what was happening and it was triggering and scary. But I still like to follow what you were sharing because I know you were on the ground and I know the information that you were putting out there was like so real, like many people was like, COVID exists and scared of it, but also many people was like, no, this is just a made up thing, So watching your stories like give us like real time what was happening. And sometimes like I was reading your post, it was like crazy.
It was real. And no matter what you feel about it now, I understand why you or how you would feel X, Y, and Z, but these things happened.
Yeah.
You can't deny it. These things happened, and it happened to me, and I put it out there live in the moment, just like I did travel blogging. I think that practice, that discipline while traveling for, 10 years before the pandemic came around. So that 10 years of practice of travel blogging in the moment made it seamless that during the travel ban, when I couldn't travel, I carried over those skills into traveling to different hospitals. Yeah. The adventure I didn't sign up for, but ultimately something I wanted to put in the moment out there without fear of consequences or thinking ahead or knowing what's going to happen or if those writings would eventually be used against me. Didn't really matter to me because I needed to know that what I was doing was right, not for myself, but also the people watching, and just putting out there so that I knew that if I died got the virus and didn't wake up anymore, that laid it all on the table, and people knew what happened.
Did you get COVID?
Nope.
Wow.
Yeah, it's some genetic predisposition. I got lucky.
Yeah.
My grandfather didn't. He died of COVID, and
Sorry to hear.
lots of colleagues who gotten COVID around me. I just think all that traveling and exposures, like my immune system, a little crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I was traveling a lot during COVID, to be honest. My partner was like in Germany, so I had to do different travels. I was fine. I didn't do the vaccine for a long time. And when I did the vaccine a few days later, after being in Zanzibar for 3 months and partying, there was no COVID rules there, right? And then I came to South Africa, I did my vaccine, and I got COVID like 3 days later. I was just like, wow.
That's probably because you went to a center for vaccinations. Where do you think all the sick people are going to go when they're desperate and they live 2 years without a cure, without treatment, without any knowledge of what it was, without tests, without personal protective equipment, and all of a sudden this hope happens? All the sick people with COVID are going to show up at the test center, and that's where you're going to get it.
Yeah, probably.
But at least you had your seatbelt on when the car accidents happen.
Yeah.
It's like everyone let's say seatbelts are invented. They say this new invention is going to save lives. All the people in their cars are going to drive into that Sarah to retrofit their cars with seatbelts, and they're going to give you some accidents.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you drove away with a seatbelt, so no, the next time you get into another accident, you're not going to go to the hospital. You're less likely to go to the hospital. Yeah. Even though we know the seatbelts can kill you too, but you still put on your seatbelt.
It just remind me, like back in the days when I had like a car accident, I had my seatbelt on, but there was no airbag in the car. So like I crashed my face.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But
airbags can kill you too. It can kill kids. I've seen seatbelts kill and decapitate patients. It doesn't mean I stop wearing my seatbelt.
Talking about that, like what has your time teach you? And like, how do you go about moments where you see very tough things? Like, how do that affect you, like, mentally? Like, how do you deal with it?
Have you watched the show The Pit yet?
No.
You should.
What's the name?
The Pit.
No, I don't know.
It's the most accurate medical drama, and it just came out like a few months ago, and so popular. Same family of producers and the actor from the show ER, and that's my life. The Pit is literally my life. I mean, crunched down, where everything's a little faster than usual, but it's super accurate. And what is it like? It's like literally being there for someone on the worst day of their lives. Like every day of my life is somebody else's worst day of their lives, times 50 or 60 patients I see it a day. So my 12-hour days, one day of my life is witnessing 50, 60 worst days of people's lives. And the privilege to be there for someone, to guide them out of that, or at least the opportunity to. Sometimes you don't get to because they die, or you make things worse because you don't have what they need, or they came for one thing and expecting something else and they don't get it because that's not right for them, what's going to kill them, and you have to manage their disappointment or expectations, and it's very tricky. And The Pit shows that, like, most people go to the ER expecting X, Y, and Z, and we live in a world where you're going in expecting you're going to get whatever you want. But really, a hospital system is not a Starbucks. You're going there for professional medical advice, just like you're going to see a lawyer for professional legal advice. You're not going to a lawyer because you get whatever you want. The lawyer is there to tell you in professional advice what is realistic, what isn't. And if you keep pushing, you might end up worse than you were before, but we'll guide you. But some people get upset by that, and they shop around lawyers, right? They get the right one, and then they find themselves in trouble because there's objectiveness that happens in ER, and we are the vanguards of that objectivity. But it's also painful because it's a very subjective experience, and we need to delicately balance between the two, and it really kills us inside, and it does add up. And there's that narrative thread in The Pit where people don't have the ability to pull themselves individually, their own personal traumas, out of that daily experience, the people that are supposed to take care of other people end up worse than they started with, and they're less likely and they're less able to take care of other people. You can't pour from an empty cup, and that's the society we live in now, where the doctors that are supposed to take care of you right now are getting sick, they're dying, they're burnt out from the pandemic, they're leaving. Who's going to be around to take care of you when it's your turn to get sick if we keep moving this direction?
Yeah.
And there's no answer to that. It's just going to get worse.
I'm hoping when you win this elections, this sort of things that you're going to be resolving. I mean, I know you talked about it in different videos that I watch you. So yeah, I'm rooting for you in that.
Thank you. I am running because I want to know I did my best.
Yeah.
To not perpetuate a vicious cycle where we end up worse than we are before. Because if I don't do anything and it gets to a point where no one's around to take care of sick people, and sick people start dying because doctors just give up or walk out and by the masses, and all you have left are junior doctors who don't know any better, I don't want to feel like I did not do anything to prevent that from happening. So I'm trying to turn the ship around, but I need more than myself to turn the rudder.
Rooting for you.
Thank you.
You were talking about, that when a patient do some test for something and then find out something else, right? And you recently, if I can say recently, you also went to do like a full scan, right? Body scan.
I found a tumor in the middle of a shift with my ultrasound while waiting on a patient to get ready because I was bored. And then found a tumor on that ultrasound where luckily because of the availability of full body MRIs.
You were bored?
Yeah, I was just like, doo-doo-doo. I was checking out my six-pack.
Wow.
I mean, that's a joke. But like the patient was taking a long time to get ready and he was trying to show dominant, like I'm in charge here. And while the doctor's waiting to take care of him. Okay, I'll get ready. And like just taking his time. I was like, well, you know, I'm in charge too. And I was just like, I'm going to scan myself. I'm going to make my time worth it. If you're going to make me wait 10 minutes for you to get ready because I could be taking care of other patients and I want to take care of you. And then I saw a tumor. So maybe that's karma. And then because of availability of full body MRIs, I booked one a few days later, confirmed it was a tumor or a cyst or mass or whatever you want to call it. Either way, as a doctor, it's a tumor until proven otherwise. That's how you have to act. And then I ended up getting a focused MRI, which double confirmed it. And within 2 weeks, I found a surgeon last minute to then take out the whole kidney, which I didn't expect. I thought he was going to just take out the tumor and part of the kidney. But when I woke up, he actually took out the whole entire kidney.
All right. Wow.
All within 2-3 weeks.
That was an intense process to go through, no?
That's an example. Doctors are dying. Yeah. Your doctor is probably dying from all that stress because when I did a genetics workup at Memorial Sloan Kettering afterwards, I have a 0% risk for cancer. No genes for cancer, no family history other than a chain-smoking grandmother who ended up getting cured anyway. That's it. I should not be getting cancer as a 37-year-old. I had no symptoms, so who knows if it was going to proliferate anyway in 20, 30 years later, but it was a very malignant type of tumor, historically from the data we have of that same type of tumor that kills people really quickly. So the only way to do it when you find out about it is to get rid of it as soon as possible. And better to do surgery earlier when you're young and healthy than when you have complications as an older patient.
All right. Wow. Quite intense. And how do you feel today? Like
I feel
physically
like as if it never happened. I'm very lucky or unlucky. Well, that's the conversation with cancer. It really screws up your head. Are you lucky or are you unlucky? Am I unlucky that I got cancer? Or am I lucky that I caught it early enough that I could beat it? And that of all the organs it could have been in, it was the only one I only need really one of to live a normal, healthy life. There were so many of us walking around this planet that don't know they have only one kidney. If anything, the way we research kidneys, I'm surprised. And my friend, inspired that for me to say. She said, and I say, well, I'm surprised that we're not donating enough kidneys because you don't need to. I feel like it's never happened other than maybe a scar when I look at my belly, but that's it.
Both my parents had kidney problems and they were doing dialysis. And in Mauritius, there is no, there is technology and there's private hospitals as well, but they didn't even think about doing a kidney implant. My mom passed away during dialysis, but she passed away of a heart attack. And my dad, 6 months away, passed away as well, but he was also going through dialysis. And at some point, I'm like, why did your doctor never suggested to do a kidney transplant? And it said, no, it never came to light. And he was not doing dialysis, he recently started it and then passed away, right? So I think there's not enough education out there, what can people do or not do, or they just sometimes listen to the doctors, no second opinion. And sometimes the doctor think okay, if the patient doesn't have sufficient fund to take care of that, they don't even suggest it. But you never know, how people can find solution to that. And this whole system had upset me a lot, that make me not being interested in everything medical, But then over the years, a few things happens to me as well that make me think all right, it's because we are not doing our tests properly. We are not living a healthy life enough to take ourselves out of that, right?
I'm sorry that happened. That must have been really frustrating.
Yeah.
And feels unfair. And that's where I believe that lack of access isn't because they weren't allowed to access it. It's because they don't know what's possible. The resources are there. It's not the will
Yeah.
or the circumspection to use it, to offer it. And there's a lot of gatekeeping going around, but it's available if you want to. You can be a patient at Memorial Sloan Kettering as any regular old person on the street. If you pay $25 to register and deliver the organ that was cut out from you from Montana, that's what I realized. I thought I needed a special referral to get access to a cancer center like that. No, I just walked over. It's like, hey, I just got my kidney taken out. They said it was cancer. Can you give me a second opinion? Sure. Fill out this form. It's $25. That's it. Do I need special privileges? Someone call me, call you? Nope. Just anyone can do this.
Yeah. I mean, this is also New York. We were a small island out there, which is kind of different.
But there's a worldwide kidney registration donor network that you should at least know that it's possible. And it's up to them. It's a choice whether they want to capitalize it. Maybe they were given the choice and they would have had to discuss who gets it first. Yeah. That's a difficult discussion to have.
It is. And also, it's crazy that when my mother was going through this whole process, this is something that never came to mind. And when my father was almost about to pass away, that's when I'm suggesting this, because I also didn't think about it before, So, yeah, I mean, anyway, in today's world, we have to educate ourselves. Yeah. We know better.
And you're going to change the society for the better so that it doesn't happen to other families.
Yeah. So, quickly, I want to come back to... I mean, you mentioned a little bit why you are running for the Manhattan Borough Presidency. So you want to tell me more about that?
I'm running for Manhattan Borough President for the upcoming June 24th primaries, the same primary election that's going to elect our next mayor, because the Democratic primary in a very democratic city is going to determine, and more likely than not, if you win the primaries for any election, in mostly New York City and especially Manhattan, you win the general election. And I'm running against two candidates. We are on the ballot. As a first-time candidate, it is pretty surprising that our campaign, our movement, our candidacy has raised $500,000 already, even though we started about 4 or 5 months late and made it to the ballot with 10,000 signatures. We only needed 2,000. And I think really people are resonating with the mission, the mission and the idea that it's about time a doctor runs for office, someone that is from the ground, like a teacher or someone who's taking care of our safety net patients and people who have nowhere else to go, social workers, emergency physicians, to provide that experience and breaking those cycles as a consequence of policy failures out of our control, because that's what we take care of most of the time. When policy fails, it impacts real people, and those people are the ones that come to us that we take care of because of those policy failures. And I can't change, for example, air quality for asthmatics. They're having asthma attacks because of bad air quality in certain neighborhoods. I can't change air quality. I can fix and help their asthma, but I can't change air quality as a doctor. I can maybe as an elected official to get to the root cause so my colleagues and my everyday at work and emergency room, it can be a little easier. Because if you get to the root cause of the policy failures and rectify that from the perspective of someone who has to deal with the consequences of policy failures at the most visceral form, the most informed experience, then can we actually get ourselves out of being reactive to preventative, from surviving to thriving. And I think the other practical goal of bringing healthcare to your doorstep, building up community health hubs, the medical tents that we build every weekend for the New York Roadrunner races, using that as an example on a nonprofit's budget to do that every week from the local government, to then bring primary care, your med refills, your health checks, your social welfare checks, but also getting to ask questions like, how's your air quality? How's your food access? Or do you have a safe place to go? Do you have access? How do you like your local subway? Do you have accessibility with the subway? Does the subway elevators work? We have that data to then leverage against city council and the mayor's office to legislate based on neighborhood-specific and community-specific needs on live data rather than every 4 years, like what's happening now. At the same time, we save billions of dollars of healthcare waste and expenditures. Those billions of dollars that's been earmarked to the public hospital system to take care of people coming to the hospital for primary care needs can then be saved because they're no longer going there. Mm-hmm. They're being met at the homes. The public hospitals now are alleviated from seeing all these patients that don't need to be there. So they have time to renovate, retrofit, become more efficient, generate more revenue.
Absolutely.
Billions of dollars that can be reinvested in small businesses to generate more revenue, healthcare startups to make New York healthier, to improve health outcomes, that saves more money, to be reinvested in housing, because we have a housing mass casualty crisis right now, to increase supply, to lower costs for all, so more New Yorkers get to stay here, to generate more revenue because more of them have jobs. And then we can actually have money to convert empty commercial real estate that's already been built. It's only doubled in the last 5 years since the pandemic because of remote work. It's just sitting there empty, converting to transitional supportive housing so that people on the street can have a roof over their heads, but mandatorily pair them up with on-site job training and recruitment with social services and healthcare workers, locally based social workers and mental health therapists, so that within months, these people can have a job, so they become tax-paying, rent-paying New Yorkers within months.
Mm-hmm.
So that everything is going on a positive feedback loop where we're becoming more preventative with our medicine, more proactive as an elected official, and everyone gets healthier and wants to stay here longer. And that's just a win-win. And we can generate revenue by being preventative than being reactive.
Awesome. Wow. Wow. I think like I don't know much about New York, but like so good to hear all of the things that you want to do. And I think it's a replica that every countries need as well, because these are many of those are situations that other countries are experiencing as well. So yeah, it's good to see. And do you have something you want to say to the public, to the New York City people, for the voting that's happening in June, beyond all the explanation that you just gave me, like right now?
Everything I've ever would want to say, I've already said it for the past 38 years of my life. Mm-hmm. I've been out there in many different ways, wearing many different hats without asking for it, just wanting to live my best life, helping other people. Everything I've already said to New Yorkers, they've heard a lot from me already during COVID, with my book out, the things and my vision, what I presented to you. The only thing else I have to say is the record's out there. I hope you believe in the mission that we're building, and I only want to do my best for the people around me. And I want to live bigger than the borders and boundaries that we created for ourselves. And I feel there's a responsibility I have with the extra time I've been given to me by whatever force out there that possessed me to scan myself. And I want to do right by the very same city, New York City, that took care of me when my dad died when I was 19 and my mom got Parkinson's and left me in the emergency room to be with her parents in Elmhurst. And I wandered the city alone for about 5 to 6 years by myself, trying to figure things out. And the only people that took care of me were my friends in college and New York City. And that's the very least I could do, is to pay back that debt by running to serve in a position that I can trying to turn the city around in a way that we don't have to go through something like the pandemic 5 years ago.
Wow, this is like a great act of service to New York City, and how do we call that? I'm like thinking in French, but like reverence. I'm just gonna say it in French, like that what you do for the city and the people around you that have done so much for you for 37 years of your life.
Yeah, I want to raise a family here. I was born and raised here. The least I could do is to invest in where I want to live the rest of my life in.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all of this with me today. I'm so glad that you find some time to make it for the podcast today and talk a little bit about all these points. Everybody, I must say that I feel like Calvin is one of the most genuine person that I've met, and I've seen him grow. I've seen his stories, his life over the course of the years, and I think like he is a very appropriate candidate for this particular election. So I do hope that you see how truthful, how genuine he is, and what he really wants to do for the city of New York. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Keseena.
Thank you.